On this episode, I interview Chauncey and Amanda with Angel Protocol. Angel Protocol provides tools to fundraise, coordinate, and invest capital. They connect donors and investors with nonprofits worldwide. What would it look like with NFTs that change over time based on your on-chain impact? Something I've been exploring for a while now. And what win and help win means for nonprofits. Stewardship and earning interest on donations? And here we go. How'd you get into crypto? Let's start there.
Sounds good. So I got into crypto towards the end of 2020. I dabbled a little bit previously, but really just got in for the kind of number go up reasons at first, and then started researching and learning at night, and just fell down the rabbit hole that is DeFi and web3, and started making all the connections of like, holy shit, this can really completely change the world and then how people fundamentally interact and exchange value. And then it took me so long personally just to get up to speed at that time, get comfortable with DeFi and all the different tools and everything. So I just had the thought, if the barrier to entry is so high, but the benefits are so great, how can we provide all of these benefits while abstracting away the complexity for the organizations who need it most? And then it was a pretty cool story, actually. Angel Protocol came together originally from a tweet. So it was just, hey, I've got this idea for a protocol called The Gift That Keeps on Giving. Who wants to help me build it? And from there, a bunch of community members suggested I enter it in a hackathon that was going on at the time. Angel Protocol ended up winning that hackathon, securing economic incubation from Delphi Digital. And it was cool because the entire team came together in that hackathon from all over the world. So our team has a combined over 100 years of social impact experience, from founding various NGOs to setting up impact venture funds. Just took all of that experience and really tried to craft as intentional of a protocol as possible. But it's been a crazy ride.
That's awesome. Love it.
I got into crypto, I would say in 2019, just researching and reading all the white papers and listening to all the podcasts. And finally, after a year, I felt like brave enough, and I was like, you know what, I think I got a handle on this like whole crypto thing. So I started DMing founders and was persistent about DMing Chauncey. And then I just asked him for a job. And yeah, he said, yeah. So now I run the Angel Alliance, which is like the partnerships side of Angel Protocol.
Amazing. It is interesting. Like this space is one that you can observe from afar, and you can, I guess, understand it at a theoretical level, but it's completely different than actually being actively, involved in the space. And there's a level of knowledge that comes from experience. And I think that is especially true with Web3. So anyone that's like not actually involved in setting up your own MetaMask wallet and moving crypto from an exchange to your own custody and then playing with DeFi, there's a lot of value in that. Yeah, tell me about Angel Protocol and what you guys are doing there, what you're building.
Excuse me. So Angel is really set up to democratize access to opportunity. And we're Web3 purists in the sense that everything we build is non-custodial, open sourcing all the code. But what we do is we actually allow charities to register. So we have like an automated registration process. The most complicated part for them is setting up a crypto wallet. And we have, a walkthrough video on how to do that. And it's fairly simple, really. But every NGO on Angel Protocol, and there's over 165 now, they've all created their own Web3 wallets. They substantiate an endowment through Angel Protocol, which we have native multi-sig for, so they've got the right offset controls. And then we make it easy for them to create their own fundraising page on our marketplace, be able to attract donations from all over the world in crypto or fiat. And then the real key game changer, I think, in what we do is we not only allow them to fundraise through our marketplace, but actually grow those funds through tapping into DeFi yields. So we try and make, the most of all of what Web3 has to offer and provide that to these organizations. This is key in the nonprofit space too, because like a lot of people note issues with nonprofits and financial sustainability. And the truth is that endowments, I mean, an endowment is really just a savings investment account for nonprofits. But only 1 in 9 actually have access to them in the traditional finance world because they're
Mm.
expensive to set up and maintain. So a lot of the smaller organizations who need that kind of savings and investment most don't have access to it. So through Angel Protocol, they can register a fundraising page completely for free. We take no cut of incoming crypto donations, and then they're able to grow those funds over time through our different yield integrations.
And how does what's the business model behind how's Angel funding itself?
Yeah, so we only take revenue from the upside. So we charge 50 bips on assets under management, so 0.5% of the total yield they're generating, and then it's a 2% withdrawal fee taking money out.
Okay, cool. I'd be curious to get your thoughts on, I think yield farming and just yield in this space has potentially taken a few months, maybe years back because of the FTX collapse, Celsius collapse, BlockFi, all these programs that promised 10% plus yield on stablecoins or whatever. So how most nonprofits are just fiscally conservative, like they're very careful, and I'm sure you encounter that a lot. So how do you encourage them to earn yield on donations and just to manage their money? Like, what's that conversation look like?
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, I mean, that's why our business model is set up the way it is, where there's no risk or cost to them to actually try it out, right? So the fact that they don't have to pay any setup costs, the fact that they can source donations without any fees there, it helps them get into the space and try it out without putting too much at risk. So that's kind of our method of getting them in the door. Also, our team is very adept at speaking with nonprofits. So we'll do a lot of onboarding calls, have a charity onboarding sales team. And again, we rely on our own experience here of having founded various nonprofits. So we're able to speak their language, talk to their concerns. And then from the yield perspective, I think that's a critical point, right? Because obviously, DeFi summer and the resulting kind of year from that really brought a lot of loose money and then fraudulent actors. But I mean, as I'm sure you've noted, the real failures and risk points were around centralized finance much more than DeFi itself. So our philosophy with that is tap into a variety of different yield sources. Our goal is to have at least 20 different yield sources available, with the thinking that even if 2 of them end up going bust, the yield from the other ones still cover that and you're
Right.
still positive. And we're also keenly interested in different advancements in DeFi in terms of where the value is coming from and what's being brought on chain and tokenized. So things like Goldfinch with emerging market lending are keenly interesting to us. Also, these kinds of products that aggregate a variety of sources to mitigate risk, like index co-op.
Yeah.
And then, of course, different options protocols like Ribbon Finance that try and mitigate risk in various ways through hedging and delta neutral strategies. So when we tap into a whole variety of these, and like you'll also have like your kind of vanilla stablecoin curve farms,
Yeah.
anyone in finance understands that the return you're getting is roughly equivalent to the risk you're taking on, or at least the risk the market's pricing there. So some of their funds will be in very stable, low risk things that are only generating 1 to 2%. Other funds will be in uncollateralized lending protocols like Goldfinch that offer, upwards of 15% return. But by tapping into a variety of these yield sources, we can offer a kind of default package in terms of when the nonprofits sign up. They have an asset allocation based on these different yield sources. They can, of course, tweak and modify that, but we want to make it as simple as possible for them so they don't have to worry about that. They can really just set up an account and know their money is being invested in a variety of different areas.
That's really cool. Yeah, and it takes stewardship like kind of to the next level. And I think like rightly so what you pointed out with these, Celsius, BlockFi, all these epic colossal failures that have had mass collateral damage across the market. These are these, centralized players that have taken your, donations. In this case, we're talking about nonprofits, but they've then started to lend out the money without your permission, and then they eventually have none of it because they've hedged it on horrible bets or whatever, and they've done things that they said that they wouldn't do with your funds, and then they end up filing for bankruptcy, and then customers and people are hurt. Whereas DeFi doesn't have any of these issues because there is no centralized player. It is peer to peer in that regard. So that's really interesting how you guys are approaching that. There's no one else doing that, is there? Like in the nonprofit space?
I don't believe so. I mean, we have some allies that are doing similar types of things, but quite differently overall.
Yeah.
Like one I would recommend to anyone is Endowment. They're really just like a world-class organization. Friends with their founder, Robbie. We've been connected for a while, but once you start, working with other founders, having meetings with them, you kind of suss out who's in it for the right reasons, who's doing it the right way. And Endowment really focuses on a slightly different functionality. They are custodial, but they are very DeFi Web3 oriented. And they support, like I'd say their core selling point is donor advised funds.
Right.
So you can donate money into them, have that managed by them, given out to different charitable organizations. So there's some similar players. What we've seen is that some of the early players in the space were not very Web3 focused. So they're more, traditional companies that are not nonprofits. They're for-profit companies, and they charge, anywhere between $2,000 to $3,000 to sign up. They take then, 3 to 5% of every donation.
Right.
And for us, that doesn't meet our goal of financial inclusivity, right? We really want to level the playing field, open up this technology to the people who need it most. And frankly, that's not the larger charities who can afford to pay that kind of funds just to accept crypto. So we're trying to do something better in the space and provide something that will benefit not just the already rich charities in the US, but really NGOs all over the world.
Yeah, and being DeFi focused, does that make the onboarding for NGOs outside of America easier?
Yeah, it really depends.
Do they, like, for example, do you need a traditional bank account to use Angel Protocol?
You don't need one, no. So
right.
There's a variety of options. Like we will have a direct bank off-ramp option soon. A lot of charities will actually use a local exchange. We make it possible to transfer directly from Angel Protocol to their exchange of choice. And then we actually have to have some bespoke solutions for some of the smaller areas, right? So take Uganda, for example. We have a few amazing NGOs stationed there. There's no exchange that offers the ability to get crypto into Uganda shillings. So they actually, some of the NGOs there actually run their own kind of OTC desks where they will actually provide the conversion ability. And one of them in particular, I'll just highlight quickly, SOE. They are, their mission is women's empowerment in Uganda. And they have two different programs, one that is a UBI program, and one that is a micro lending program. And they actually use the flows from those different programs to help balance out, because one's an outflow from the crypto funds, one's an inflow to the crypto funds. And so they use that to manage their OTC desk and then, manually supplement where necessary. So obviously not ideal to have kind of the bespoke party in between there. But you have to get creative and scrappy in some of these regions that just don't have any other option there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's neat. So I see on the website that Angel Protocol is in beta. What does beta look like compared to, I guess, full, version Angel Protocol? So what is next for Angel Protocol?
Yeah, so right now, what our beta includes is the charity marketplace, abilities for charities to automatically register, have native multi-sig functionality to manage their accounts and their profile. And we've also developed a pretty advanced cross-chain swapping logic where people can log into Angel Protocol, whether they're connecting from Ethereum, Binance, a Cosmos chain. They can connect and donate in their currency of choice. And so we handle that all in-house, decentralized obviously, but we built all of that routing logic. So really that we're kind of chain agnostic in that sense. And so that's what the beta currently entails. And then what's going to be released very soon are what we call angel impact funds. And angel impact funds are our way to reach a broader range of the impact spectrum. So if you think of like nonprofits over here, there's really a lot of impact organizations that are on the spectrum from nonprofit to impact ventures. And these impact ventures are for-profit companies. And you can also think of like B Corps as kind of similar. But these are companies that do have some sort of profit wheel and an actual product or service that they're monetizing, but they have impact imbued into what they're doing. And so this is a way for us to allow people to actually invest in different businesses around the world that they want to support and actually get some kind of return on their money. And so this is really taps into a philosophy we call win and help win, where we think we can do the most good by aligning incentives between the impact financiers and the people actually receiving that money. And this is cool because a lot of people who do invest are interested in impact investing, but don't really have great avenues to do that today. You have to go through some kind of registered investment advisor. You have to invest into baskets of funds rather than individual businesses and causes that are relevant to you. And it really removes that personal connection and kind of like passion that you feel for, finding a farmer in Ghana who's doing something innovative and knowing that you can support them and support local industry from the ground up rather than this kind of tops down approach. But angel impact funds at their core are really a one-stop shop for change makers to set up their organization. So advanced DAO tooling, all the bells and whistles associated with that. Have a funding page on our marketplace, which in the future will not just be NGOs, but actually be NGOs as well as these different social entrepreneurs and impact ventures. And then use the same kind of yield integrations we have to grow their treasury over time after they raise funds.
Amazing. And when is that expected to roll out?
So that'll be out in Q1, probably early Q1,
Okay.
along with an expansion to Polygon. So shout out to Ryan Wyatt and the Polygon DeFi team. They were very hospitable and welcoming to us when we were originally built on Terra. Survived that crash, lived to fight another day. And got a grant from Polygon to migrate our code over to EVM. So we're going to have both a Cosmos IBC hub as well as an EVM hub and really have access to the best of all worlds in terms of both yield and users.
Amazing. And Amanda, you are with the Angel Alliance portion.
Yes, I am.
Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, of course. So the Angel Alliance is a collective of over 100 different for-profit Web3 right now. We have a few Web2 partners, but anyone really in the Web3 space that is looking to give back to charity. So that idea of corporate social responsibility and having all of that transparency on the blockchain within the Web3 space. So I partner and make connections with NFT projects, validators, layer one networks, layer twos, anybody really in the Web3 space. Yes, and we have a it looks different for everybody. Someone might mint out a collection and give us 2 or 3% of it and plus royalties. Another project like someone like Loop Finance or Kujira, for instance, they've joined our Locked for Good program. So they have donated native tokens, and then the yield from those tokens is what goes to fund the charities. That principal is never sold. So we have a bunch of different options using DeFi as a way to help fund the charities forever. And a lot of projects in the Web3 space are passionate about it because they can see and be a part of a community that's doing good. So it's a really Um, it's a rewarding space to be in because I hop in, Twitter spaces and be friends with people and get to share what Angel's doing, and that's how we're spreading the word.
Yeah, it's amazing. It is, what Web3 allows is, people are no longer just watching the goals of an NGO or nonprofit from afar, but they're actually active participants in that. And that's really the beauty of Web3 and just building all of these platforms on the blockchain that just enhances the experience of giving, of impact, of transparency. And I had no idea you guys were such a truly a Web3 solution in this sense. I don't think I've encountered anyone else quite like you, or how you guys are thinking about it. Just knowing nonprofits are so conservative especially when it comes to like finance, and it's always the finance team that is always the most conservative. There's innovation teams, marketing, like they want to move fast, they want to move, and they're already in the space. They're rocking the profile pictures on Twitter, but it's in the end, it's like the operations people that are the ones that are paying the bills or dealing with the legal and all of that in finance. So what's your pitch like to a nonprofit, an NGO that wants to get into the space, or maybe they don't even want to get into the space? Like how do you share this with them? What's the benefit of them entering Web3 in this regard?
I mean, there's all kinds of benefits, really. So it's funny because people often ask, like, what's the actual real utility of Web3? Why do we need this technology? And the reason it's funny to me is because a lot of the ways it's been used, I understand why people ask that question, right? Because it's effectively been misused and abused in different ways. When you think back to what Web3 and DeFi offer, it's this trustlessness and transparency that is currently completely lacking in the philanthropy and impact financing worlds, and that's why a lot of people turn away and stop donating and stop supporting it, because they don't know where their money's going. They don't know if it's making it to the right source. And often there's a lot of intermediaries taking fees throughout the whole process, especially when you look at international NGOs. And so with this, you can have a completely transparent record of your donation. We provide an immediate tax receipt to donors. Charities are able to raise funds from a much broader audience with almost no transaction fees and actually getting those funds in. And I mentioned endowments already. I mean, today, 1 in 9 nonprofits have access to an endowment, yet over the majority of them have less than 30 days of operating reserves. So
Right.
when you're looking at a industry that has over 500 billion of donation dollars every year, but the majority of organizations are near insolvency, there's something structurally wrong in how that system is set up. So we're really reimagining impact financing to be more transparent, be more equitable, cut out those middlemen, and enable that direct connection between donor and charity. And for charities, even though they're fairly conservative, they also generally keep a pulse on the data, right? And what the data shows is that we have these upcoming generations, especially millennial and Gen Z, who are very generous with their funds
Yeah.
and really looking for things with purpose. And they're about to inherit a lot of money from the generations before them. So with a nonprofit, right, you need to be staying ahead of that curve. You need to be partaking in digital fundraising. And with Angel Protocol, it's a way for them to tap into an entire new world of donors with little to no effort on their part.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Is there a future plan for a plugin of sorts? So instead of them having to come to the marketplace on Angel Protocol's website, they can, offer all the same services like through a widget on their site.
100%. Yeah. We have a very kind of, I would say a beta version of that today, but we'll have a proper both SDK and API integrations within Q1.
Cool.
I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
We're also no, sorry. Yeah, we're also working specifically for me with partnerships. like looking to partner with different wallets and different
Mm.
platforms like NFT marketplaces or even DEXs, so that when you're done with your transaction, maybe like $1 or $2, you can choose to round up to Angel Protocol, kind of like what McDonald's does with the Ronald McDonald House. So those integrations are what we're pushing right now, because that'll get our name and our brand out there, but also people familiar. And, you know, a lot of times if you're there and it's presented in front of you, you're more likely to give. I mean, you wouldn't know otherwise. So it's just
Yeah.
another way for us to get our brand out there. But I'm very excited for the widget, Chauncey.
Chauncey, what you said is about Gen Z millennials inheriting, this. I mean, they're already, I think, quite a wealthy generation, and they want to give, but it's not just enough to give. They want to see that their donations having impact. And then we don't even need to include this if you don't have anything here. But I'm curious, what would it look like to use the blockchain to not only show, hey, their funds are going directly to this cause, but to see, hey, this cause is actually using the funds as they've said, and it's all provable via the blockchain. Is that something you guys have given any thought to?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot I could speak to on this point, actually. So one thing is, I'll highlight one of the examples from our community. Last year, well, actually, early this year, we voted on chain to send $500,000 from what we call the AP endowment. The AP endowment is effectively a community governed charitable foundation that they can allocate funds out to NGOs and grant them from. And so our community selected NGO Yellow Boat of Hope, which works out in the Philippines. And the Philippines had just been ravaged by an especially destructive hurricane.
Mm.
And so we sent $500,000 down to them, but part of that whole grant was very clear deliverables in terms of number of bags of food delivered, number of homes and schools rebuilt, number of boats rebuilt, and so they provide impact reports based on that funding back to our community, so they can see exactly who's being impacted. They also, document it all. There's, if you search for Yellow Boat of Hope and Angel Protocol on Twitter, for example, you'll see all kinds of pictures of support being done and, signs, with Yellow Boat of Hope and Angel Protocol. And for us, I mean, it's just a very impactful way to spread the word about crypto in a very positive way, right? It shows what good can come out of this space. And so with grant funds like that, it's very important to have that accountability. From the individual charity donor interaction, where you're just going to the marketplace, donating to the charity, we try and walk a fine line here. And I think the philosophy I'd highlight is we try and eliminate rules and replace them with incentives. And what I mean by that is we don't mandate that a charity is like completely transparent with all funds received and what they're doing with them. And this gets into something called surveillance philanthropy, which it can actually be a net negative,
Mm.
where you have a sort of dilemma where donors stipulate how their funds can be spent, but donors don't actually know the best way to allocate those funds the way the NGOs on the ground do. So rather than mandate that, we encourage it through incentives. So Halo is the token underpinning the overall Angel Protocol decentralized ecosystem. It gets you voting rights in terms of how to allocate funds from the AP endowment. It lets you set parameters of the actual protocol itself. But the main emissions for the Halo token is actually donation matching. So if you donate $100 to an NGO, that gets matched with $10 of Halo. That actually gets split between you and the NGO you're donating to.
Mm.
And the way it gets split is that Halo gets staked into that charity's bonding contract. So we have these bonding curves which facilitate curation. So the more that a charity has staked into their bonding curve, and it's relative to the size of their endowment, so we don't just overcount the large organizations. But basically, the more staking into their bonding contract compared to the size of their endowment, the higher of a profile they'll receive on Angel Protocol, so it'll be more discoverable and visible,
Mm.
and the more funding they get from our Angel Alliance partners. So in this way, charities are incentivized to share more and be more transparent with their donors, because the more they share, the more people will be inclined to stake with them. And similarly for donors, they're now incentivized with some stake in the game. When they donate to a charity and that gets staked into the charity's bonding curve with the donation matching, they now share in the upside of that charity's endowment. So some of the yield from that endowment, the 50 bips of assets under management I mentioned, that actually gets split back to stakers. And depending on what charity they stake into, they will get a share of that charity's endowment fee, which incentivizes them to actually become champions for the charity, publicize them, help fundraise for them, because they have skin in the game and will share in that upside. So on both sides of the equation, we're trying to use Web3 and tokenomics to align incentives that otherwise wouldn't be possible.
That's really cool. Yeah, I absolutely love that. Have you given so this is all, ERC20-esque type tokens we're talking about here. Have you done anything with NFTs? Have you thought about, using NFTs, accepting NFTs as donations, potentially staking an NFT, but then also you have that social representation. Hey, I support this NGO, and I want to rep it as my Twitter profile picture to show people that.
100%. So for me, from my founder lens, I've had a lot of very exciting ideas around NFTs, and then from the actual product development angle, it's something on our roadmap that just hasn't been like the main priority, because we're still pushing to get our angel impact funds out. But yes, so there's some things we've already done. So we were able to gamify a donation campaign last year, raised $1.5 million for climate change. And the way we did this was partnering with an existing NFT collection that offered to create a special new mint for us. And then we were able to do something cool where, if you donated at least $100, you were guaranteed a tier 1, all the way up to $100,000 for a tier 7. We got a number of bites at the $100,000 level, because you're basically gamifying NFTs and scarcity. And so that was our Galactic Angels collection, and that really serves as kind of a badge of honor that you were supporting something good on the blockchain. But we have much more advanced thoughts around how we want to utilize that in the future, from very basic stuff like allowing charities to list and sell NFTs from their fundraising page is another way to raise funds. The ability for charities to airdrop NFTs to all of the donors who have donated to them, so it facilitates that charity donor connection there. And then finally, we're going to have an actual evolving NFT series based on your on-chain charitable actions, donating, impact investing, partaking in governance, a variety of other types of things there. And that will be basically a badge of honor that then grows over time depending on your activities on chain. We've got some integrations with other protocols too. Someone called Proof of Good, which is actually their whole thing is measuring, good deeds on chain and rewarding people for them. So working, different integrations like that. But yeah, I think I think the days of 10,000 collection NFT PFPs are kind of waning, and I don't think that's really the future of NFTs. But I do think they have immense utility and value. And so we're definitely keenly interested in tapping into that any way we can.
Yeah, the current paradigm of NFTs is not the paradigm of the future, and I think we've just started scratching the surface of what is the potential of NFTs. I love what you said. So I've been working on something. So much of the language that you're speaking is language that I've been speaking amongst a small group of people. This idea of like, what would an impact protocol or a proof of impact look like? And talking about like how, like just the ability to incentivize someone to not only watch the mission from afar, to be actively, involved in the mission, and then as their impact, as they maybe onboard others or they continue to give, the metadata of the NFT could update, but the visual aesthetic could also update. because I do think like that there's an opportunity to change the future of giving and to incentivize giving in a way that just has never been possible before without the blockchain. So that's really cool. You mentioned this idea. Maybe donors don't know exactly how to use the funds as best as like the people on the ground do, which is, I think, true because the people on the ground understand the context, they understand the actual needs that are present. So how do you look at there are people that say like NGOs, nonprofits, they're all going to become DAOs eventually, and this idea of like that people have buy-in and people are saying where the funds are going. But I think there's value in having the intel on the ground, knowing where the need is actually most needed or most present. So have you given that thought? Like, what does a DAO look like? What's a healthy, actually successful NGO DAO look like? I don't think we've seen it, but I'm curious, get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. So there's some interesting experiments with this going on. I would point to Kimball Musk and the Big Green DAO as an interesting example there. But really, when I talked about angel impact funds before, I mean, everything we're doing is a bet on the future of Web3. And so right now, our go-to-market is onboarding traditional NGOs onto on-chain endowments, giving them a taste of the space, showing them the benefit of it. But with angel impact funds, it really allows for the advent of digital-first NGOs, where you can set up your DAO however you want. There's a lot of tooling and programmability within that. So there's different options for how they set that up, whether it's token based, an existing token, new token, no token, NFT based. You can implement the bonding curves I talked about. And then you can program a lot in terms of like how funds get distributed or collected. And so, it can range from use cases like, setting up an actual NGO, right? And you have your whole organization in the cloud. And it can also go into things like creating your own impact fund and, helping collect money and then vote on how that's dispersed. And then social entrepreneurs setting up their business can use angel impact funds to create their organization. And again, this is all leading people down this path of trying to be digital first and tapping into this technology, which is really defining what the future will be. I've got a call with, and I just want to highlight this because it's kind of an interesting angle for us. I have a call with a Web2 fundraising platform in Africa. This is one three that we're currently talking to that basically have regulated front ends, do impact funding of various sorts, but have no blockchain functionality currently. And so we're partnering with different Web2 companies to provide their Web3 backend. And so it's yet another way of kind of spreading that exposure, getting more organizations and different populations into the game. So very excited about all that. The only other thing I would add right now, and I could talk for hours right now. I live, breathe Angel. It's my passion. But I would say, end of year for anyone, from a financial perspective, come to Angel Protocol, donate. You'll not only get an immediate tax receipt, which is a tax write-off that you can take, but you also avoid any capital gains tax on donated assets. So it's double whammy from a financial perspective in terms of donating before end of year. And we're also going to have gift card functionality up within the next 2 weeks. So if you have people in mind that you want to buy them the ability to donate and help give them a taste of the crypto world, then you can go to Angel Protocol, buy donation cards as gifts if you are looking for ideas for this holiday season.
Awesome. So nice to meet you both. I appreciate your time. And I look forward to following along.
Thanks for having us on, Stephen.
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate the platform.
Absolutely. All right. Well, take care and Merry Christmas.
Bye, Merry Christmas.
Bye-bye.